Hello everyone and welcome back to Life and Times of J. Carver Part 2. In case you haven't seen it yet, check out Part 1 here. Here. I've been telling my story about how I got started in poker, and yesterday I kind of went over a little bit of where the name J. Carver came from, my first exposure to poker, the first time I played live, and a bunch of other cool stories. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check that out. I'm not really going to do too much of a recap, but basically at this point it was October 2004. I had been studying poker really hard, been working very hard on my game, but I hadn't really got a chance to play too much online. I'd been playing some free rolls, but it hadn't really worked yet. Nothing had really stuck. I hadn't yet had a chance to really play too much online. But that was about to change. So it was October 17th, 2004. I was playing my usual schedule of free rolls. Oh wait, how could we begin? Oh, my deepest apologies. How could we have a story time? Now we can have a story time. So it was October 17th, 2004. I was playing my usual schedule of free rolls. I was playing, that was it. My sleep schedule had been based around the free rolls, to be honest. It was that serious to me. And I played the 3 p.m. daily free roll on Pacific Poker. They had 2,000 runners, and top 90 paid. 11th through 90th paid $5, and then 10th and higher paid more. And I must have played fantastically that day because I got 88th for five sweet dollars. And at that point, with $5, they only really offered Pacific Poker at the time only offered limit hold'em ring games and then no limit sit and goes in tournaments. So I played a mix of low limit sit and goes and cash games, limit hold'em cash games, mostly limit hold'em cash games to be honest, but some sit and goes and tournaments in there as well. I grinded that $5 like it was it's getting hot in here. That's right, the stakes it's getting hot in here. That's right, add that log to that fire. You go. By the end of October, so about 2 weeks later, I had ran up that $5 to $75. As a little side note, I had mentioned yesterday that I shared my account with one of my good friends, my best friend at the time, Chuck, and back then it was like a wild west. There was no rule against account sharing. Of course, like now it's completely unethical, and I have never done it besides in this one instance. But back then it was not even like a question. It was like totally fine. It wasn't even an issue. So, but for all the numbers I wrote down, I only really kept records. I only kept records of my own winnings and earnings, and didn't track his at all. So all the numbers that I share with you guys, and the earnings and the statistics and the graphs, those are all from my personal play. I didn't track his. He has his own poker charts and kept his numbers separate from mine, so that we could keep the money at least somewhat segregated when it came time to chop things up. And I was extremely neurotic with my record keeping, to the point of like tracking like free rolls I played and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure why I did that, but I took it that seriously. That is how seriously I took my poker life back then. So by the end of October, I had earned $70, so I ramped about $75, mostly playing limit hold'em, but a little bit of other stuff in there too. I had read Small Stakes Hold'em at that point, and that was like my go-to book to get started. It was limit hold'em. It was like how to play small stakes limit hold'em, and I haven't reread that book in a while. But back then, it was basically the foundation of my entire limit hold'em game. And that was a pretty crucial learning tool for me, that's for sure, and Chuck as well. By about the middle of November, I had ran up that $5 to about $300 online, and $500 was my total life earn from poker. That's right. So that was I started in April, May, and I had made $500 by the middle of November. That's right, ballin'. So I think we have a yep. This is the one. So yeah, this is a graph of my play up to this point. This is my lifetime earnings through the 15th of November, 2004. So I had made about $500 at this point. You can see it was pretty much a straight climb up. I never really had too many swings. It was always just I was just chipping up. But if you look at how many sessions I played, that's 261 sessions. So a session meant just any session I played on a site. So if I played on a site for 6 hours, that was one session. If I played one tournament on a site, it was one session. So that's what that sessions thing means, and that's always what it means for the rest of these videos going forward. So Chuck had been playing too. He had won about $50 to $75 at this point. Like I said, not included in this number, but that was just what was true. So we probably had $375 or so online, and I had made $200 off the site. At this point, I was playing 50 cent a dollar limit hold'em. That was the game I had played with this much money, which I think is reasonable. I had 300 bets, which I think is okay for limit hold'em, and I'm sure it was at the time. Also, you have to remember that on Pacific Poker, you couldn't multi-table. The client was only one table. It only lets you play one table at a time. So that it wasn't like you could like 8 tables. So you didn't need that big of a bankroll for one tabling limit hold'em, or at least I didn't think so at the time. I think that's pretty much true. November 16th, so the day after that graph ended, I was just playing my normal thing, playing my limit hold'em games, and super happy just to be playing online poker. $300 in the account, like feeling like a boss, of course. And I remember going over to the tournament list, and something there caught my eye, as I wrote down here. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. If you don't remember that from yesterday, remember I wrote a extensive diary in 2006 about my prior 2 years. So I have that as kind of a reference, and I also added some more notes to that in 2010. So as I wrote, something caught my eye on the tournament list. Heads up, $20, a $20 heads up tournament. I had never played heads up before, besides at the end of sit and goes, so it wasn't like I was a heads up specialist by any means. But it seemed like a fun thing to do. You get to play one-on-one. It seemed like a really cool format to me back then. So I couldn't say no. I had $300 something in the account, so why not? Let's play a $20 heads up tournament. Now there were 119 players in this event. And it wasn't like it is now, where it's bracket style. So you play opponents and you move on to the next round, and they play, and then always have the same amount of chips, or just about. And no, this is not how it was back in the day. On Pacific, they would just give you another player as soon as you were done. So besides your first match, it was never even. And it was never evenly stacked, And I remember they even moved you randomly at times. I don't know why they would move tables, but I remember they broke tables randomly and just change opponents, and it was a bizarre setup. The software was obviously, we're talking about 10-year-old poker software, so it was really bad. And make sure I didn't hit mute there like an idiot. That would be really sad. So I remember that night that I was just kept winning. There were 119 entrants and 20 spots paid. Yes, 20, which is not an even number for a bracket system. So yes, it was a very weird payout structure. And after an hour of play, we were in the money, which is crazy, but that's what I wrote. Is an hour of play, we're in the money, and I believe that. I remember it being really very fast, generally speaking. And we were down to the final four an hour after that, and before I knew it, I was heads up. And heads up in the final showdown, and I had a 3-to-1 chip disadvantage, which was pretty normal for these, because it was just so random in opponents and stuff like that. I grinded my way all the way back up to even, and we have our second hand history of this series. I picked up, I'm mostly reading. I picked up Queen 10 in the small blind. I raised, as the button actually is how I would say it now, normal person. I raised and he called. The flop came Queen 10 8 rainbow, no flush draws. He checked. I put out a pot-sized bet. Yeah, okay. Top 2 pair? Pot. I bet the pot, dealer. All right. He debated for a few seconds and then shoved all in. I'm going to read it word for word. I beat him into the pot. What? I don't think you can do that online. Imagining the $800 first place prize in my account. My opponent flipped over Jack 9 for the nuts, and I didn't get there. Yep, so I ran top 2 pair into a straight Queen 10 8 board, and ended up getting second place for $454, which more than doubled the bankroll. And I wasn't really that upset. I remember being okay with it, because A, it was a huge score, the biggest score of my life, and at the time, and B, I knew it was just a cooler, even back then. Although I did think that one day I would hopefully be good enough to fold a hand like that with and get away from that situation, but. Nah, that's still cooler. That's still getting me these days. So that was a little idealistic. But the really truly amazing thing is that after that night, I played it again the night after, and I got third for $202. And I played it for the next 11 nights, and I cashed in it 9 times, which is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. I must have ran so good to get that to be that way, but that's it. I remember how sick that was back in the day, and I have the records of all of it. So at this point, we have this is my graph from my total earnings through the end of November. So you can see now we're getting up to the $1,600 mark. I had earned about $1,400 from poker total by just about the end. I guess this actually is a little bit above, so about $1,500 or $1,600 I had actually earned from poker at this point, which is absolutely unbelievable. And I think there's actually one for just November. Yeah, this is it. So in November alone, I had made just about $1,400, bringing my total earnings to about the 1,600 that we had just saw. So this is my November 2004 earnings graph. So from that $5 free roll win, in about a month and a half, I had ran it up to about $1,600. That's not true. Into about $600 total in earnings, so about $1,500 plus whatever Chuck had won. So pretty amazing heater for 6 weeks. And I was so confident, like I was like, oh, of course I can do anything. I turned $5 into $1,400. Of course I can do anything. I'm cashing all these things. So I didn't quite grasp the concept of variance, but that would be a lesson I would learn soon enough. But I remember at the time telling my friend Chuck that at the end of November, I told my friend Chuck that by the end of the year, I was going to try to make $2,500, and by my birthday in April, I was going to try to make $10,000. And his words, which is not a paraphrasing, his words were, "Good luck, clown." That was what he said. He called you a clown all the time. And I was very supportive, to be honest. He said, "Good luck, clown." He didn't just call me a clown. But I soon would learn the lesson that poker wasn't going to just be a straight, shoot up to glory and fame and fortune. That did not quite happen that way. So I had about this $1,400 in my account or whatever, and decided to start pretty much like skipped the 2-4 and even like 1-2 limit hold'em levels, and just pretty much moved up to whatever I was bankrolled for, which is actually kind of how I played my whole career. If I had like 200K to my name, I was playing 25-50 regardless of like whether or not I was ready for it, and sometimes bigger. It was just like, oh, I'll just play. What's the worst thing that can happen? I'll just go broke and run it up again. All right, that was literally okay with me. Like I was always okay with that. From the get-go, which is probably not the best strategy, but you have to remember that I'm 17 at this point, so it's not exactly like I have bills to pay or anything like that. So it was basically a video game, and money was like a score, like a scoreboard, So I played 3-6 and 5-10, kept running it up, kept winning a little bit, but as I started losing a little bit in December and started encountering negative variance, I didn't move down nearly as fast as I should have. I kind of just took it as like a bump in the road and like, oh, it'll be fine, I'll just play through it. But within the first 20 days of December, I had lost $1,100. And yeah, look how sad that graph is. That is not a happy graph. My roll bottomed out at $300 at one point, from a peak of like $1,400, $1,500 online. I was so unconfident. By this time I was pretty devastated. I felt like I had just like blown it, like I had got lucky and then just blown it. And I remember feeling like I could never win a hand. I would never make a draw. I remember it was limit hold'em mostly too, and it was just like very depressing. And all those goals I had, I felt like I was just silly and like naive, and that it was just really, really silly of me to even think I could even try to make money this way. And I felt like it was like a dream that was going to just end now. That it was going to be a story and not the beginning of something. But thankfully it didn't. Thankfully the dream didn't end, thankfully. Christmas Eve morning, very appropriate that we have like the Yule log here to commemorate. Christmas Eve morning, 2004, I wanted to play something, even though it was like, early in the morning, which didn't mean a lot to me, but we had stuff to do later in the night, but I wanted to play something earlier that day. So I played a $10 tournament on Pacific. And a few hours later, I was at the final table playing tight, just doing my normal thing, I guess, which I wrote playing tight, but I think that's not true. Even back then, I doubt it. I would love to see what my definition of tight was even back then. I ended up making it down to the final two, and ended up not getting not being able to beat him then, and I ended up earning $523 for my efforts there, turning my roll, like recovering my roll big time, and really restoring my tattered confidence at this point. Anyone that's been through a downswing, even if it's only like a 20-day downswing, knows that it feels really good to have a score like that after you've feeling like you can't win at all. So a day after that, after doing the Christmas thing in the morning, so Christmas Day, I decided to play another tournament. This time I played and this point I had $1,000 online or so. So I played, I think it was a $30 buy-in. I actually didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure it was a $30 buy-in pot limit hold'em tournament. And again, I found myself at the final table, and again I got second place, which is kind of sick, but yeah, I got second place again for another $513. And this would also be the beginning of, like, for some reason I like really liked pot limit hold'em for the first like 3 or 4 years of my career, even though by now I hate it because it's just like a boring form of poker in my opinion. But back then it was like I thought it was cool and that I was good at it for some reason, even though I really don't think I was any better than no limit. I think it was very similar to me, but I had some sort of like a bias towards it for whatever reason, partially probably because this tournament was like so cool to like win $500 on Christmas getting second. So that one tournament probably biased me towards pot limit hold'em for years. But I had never played pot limit before that day. That was the first time I played pot limit, and I kind of liked it. And a couple days after that, I got fourth in another tournament for about $450. So I went on this huge heater at the end of December. After being down as much as we had seen it, I ended up winning about. This is December earnings. Yep, that's the right one. So I ended up earning about $2,100 in the last 10 days of December, and I had met my goal to make $2,500 by the end of the year from poker in total, because I had money from before that. So this is my 2004 earnings graph. So I made about $3,000 playing poker. That's live and online. I made about $3K total from May through December of 2004. Was so happy about it. It was like I was like so happy about it. Obviously, I recovered. I mean, it's funny how as you play more and more and more, those downswings look less and less impressive. But the ones that look so catastrophic when you zoom out far enough, eventually are just completely just gone. You know. But over a period of 3 months, I had earned $3,025 from poker, and I actually would bet that I was within like $15 of what my actual earn rate was. Like I kept such neurotic records. I mean, at 601 sessions, I guarantee you that number, I missed maybe like 2 or 3 of them. I was really, really meticulous with keeping records. So, and in fact, I even wrote down like exactly, I was able to see through statistics, through analytics, that I played a total of 620 table hours of poker, because I was only one tabling online, so every hour that I played was a true hour of poker. So I played 620 table hours of poker in 2004. I earned $2,747 online and $275 from home games, and I still had this fantasy of making it to that goal of $10,000 in April, trying to earn $10,000 by my birthday on April 15th. And that was what I wanted to accomplish. That felt like it was the thing I could do. Remember, I wasn't going to just high school. I was going to college twice a week. So this was my passion. This was my obsession. I really, really, really badly wanted to get there. And I remember telling people that was my goal, and people were calling me crazy, that like 10,000 is so much more than 2,500 or 3,000 to people, that it seemed so far out there and so unrealistic. But I felt pretty confident about it at this point, and I would attack poker with even more of like that vigor in the coming months. And we'll have to see how that goes tomorrow, I guess. So I hope you guys enjoyed this second part of the life and times of Jay Carver. I've been really enjoying telling these stories, and you guys seem to be digging these stories too. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I think in the next story phase, I even have like actual photos and less of the graphs, because I started actually like, you know, eventually taking pictures of things. So I have those still. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this video. If you have any comments, questions, things like that, I'll answer any questions you guys have, you know, within reason. So even from Rory McDonald, I'll answer any questions. That's it. I'll do anything. That's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back with more tomorrow. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.